Well, welcome to the Visionary Learning Academy presentation of the mind, body, spirit industry in the time of the pandemic, a discussion with Santosh Krinsky. I'm Christopher McClure, Vice President of COVR and Head of its Education Committee, and I'll be facilitating tonight's event. The world is facing a crisis unlike any we've ever faced in our lifetime, and we who are engaged in the mind, body, spirit industry have a vital role to play in helping those we serve. The Visionary Learning Academy was born out of a desire to connect those looking to increase their knowledge of various aspects of our industry with information from the finest instructors available. Santosh Krinsky is the president of New Leaf Distributing Company, the leading wholesaler provider of spiritual, metaphysical, and healing books and lifestyle tools in the USA. There were 35,000 unique items in the catalog. He is also president of Lotus Light, a wholesale distributor of body care, dietary supplements, herbal products, aromatherapy, and much more, with over 15,000 products. Santosh is a published author with 12 books in print and is the editor of Lotus Press. And tonight, he will be giving us insights on strategies that we in the Mind, Body, Spirit marketplace can employ to manage through this difficult time. So, Santosh, thanks for joining us here tonight. Sorry about the technical issues earlier. I'm sure we'll still get a lot out of the interview here. So yeah. So tell me, what are visionary businesses? Why are they so vital at this time? What makes them so special right now?
Well, I would say this, that a lot of states have decided that gun shops are essential businesses right now because of their Second Amendment rights. Mm-hmm. Of course, bookstores represent the printed word and the development of communication between people, which is a First Amendment right, and therefore precedes the need for guns. It's actually more vital and more critical to people than having a gun in your house. If you're basically shut down and locked in and not working and home possibly with kids or with elders that need to be dealt with on a day-to-day basis, a gun isn't going to help you solve any of that. Mm-hmm. Books and spiritual materials and educational information will be a critical resource for people to actually survive their period of shutdown and keep their sanity and keep their practices going forwards and keep their bodies and minds healthy and their emotions in balance. What happens when people get shut in and can't work? You see rising depression, you see people who do comfort eating and who become basically very sad or depressed, like you see seasonal affective disorders in the winter in some places, like in Wisconsin where I used to live. People feel shut in just from the ice and the snow, and that's really a big issue. But on a more positive basis, people have always done things like retreats and vision quests and meditation sessions in order to find out who they are and what their lives are about and advance their own spiritual or religious practices. Mm-hmm. And if we reframe this a little bit, this is really quite a retreat for a lot of people, many of whom aren't used to the idea and who are searching about for what can I do and how can I make this a positive experience going forward rather than a negative? And this is where metaphysical and spiritual mind, body, spirit booksellers can play an enormous role, because we actually have the materials that will help people work through these issues and help them turn what is for them right now, in many cases, a highly negative experience and depressing experience, into a growth and positive development experience. In addition, I mean, we have yoga and martial arts and Pilates and other things that we sell materials on in these bookstores. Mm-hmm. And these are the types of activities that help people keep their bodies fit at the same time as they advance their learning, their mental education, their emotional balance, and their spiritual practice. So all of these areas, the whole gamut of human life, are what we in the mind, body, spirit community actually serve. And I would say we're an extremely important resource if this country is going to come through this period with a sane and balanced perspective.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree. I think that all of us engaged in this industry are, are vital. And this is the time to take the opportunity, really, I think, to make the most of it, to do what we can. We do provide incredibly important tools for people to make it through this crisis. So how do you feel that businesses and, like, say, visionary artists even can really stay active during this period? You kind of folded into that, really. What are some tools that they could use to really to stay active during this time of retreat, as you're saying?
Well, there are 2 or 3 aspects to that. There's the business side of things, there's the personal growth side of things, and there's the outreach to their client or customer base side of things. So we've got 3 totally different questions that are folded into your big question there.
Okay, go. Well, just, yeah, you can unpack that as you'd like. So you might guess.
So let's start from a business perspective, because I think that if we look at the business as the body, that's the first thing that needs to be nurtured and healed if the rest of our being in the community is to survive and thrive. So many booksellers, as I understand it, are either shut down or partially shut down, or they don't have clients coming into their stores and they're wondering how they're going to keep the lights on, survive this period of shutdown and come through it and continue to operate their business. And it's obviously the first and major concern before they can start thinking about, well, how can I use this for a vision quest or something? They want to know, well, what am I going to do to keep my business afloat? So why don't we start there? Okay.
Yeah.
Essentially, there are a couple of strategies that they can follow. The first one is to take advantage of, where possible, the government programs that have been set up to help small businesses, whether it's the PPP, Paycheck Protection Program, which was sort of a boondoggle out of the gate with a lot of big businesses surfing up the money. Mm-hmm. But the second round is going to be passed this week, mm-hmm. and $300 billion, and some of it is now earmarked with guardrails for smaller local and regional banks to have access to specific buckets of that money and make it available to their clients, which will help people who didn't get in on the first round get in on the second round. The reason that's important is that it provides essentially about 10 weeks worth of your payroll, including the owner's payroll, as a low interest loan. And if you maintain that payroll for the 8 weeks after you get the funds, you can use it. Up to 75% of it can go to payroll, and the other 25% can be used for rent and utilities and things of that sort that helps keep, and also mortgage payments or rent, that type of thing, mortgage interest. So it will help stores who get into that program to stay alive and keep their employees on the books during that time, because 75% of it's going to payroll. So the good thing about that is, if you do it that way, your bank will work out a forgiveness of the loan amount, mm-hmm. to the amount that you actually kept your payroll consistent. And so you won't have to repay it.
I see.
So this is like free money for an 8-week period for a store that wants to survive. Right. If you get involved, it does not involve, like normal SBA, it does not involve any personal guarantees. The paperwork is really simplified. Mm-hmm. And the main thing you have to do is move quickly. They're going to open it up maybe again on Friday this week. Mm-hmm. And get with your banker and talk to them about that. Mm-hmm. Now, the SBA has another program. Oh, and I should say that anything that isn't forgiven because you didn't do the 75% payroll balance thing is reduced dollar for dollar from how much can be forgiven. So you can get up to 100% forgiven if you follow that rule, but if you have a lower payroll or a lower head count during that measurement period, they'll reduce it dollar for dollar, and then you'll have to repay it, but the interest rate is only 1%. Mm-hmm. And you have 6 months before you have to start repaying it. So that's a good program. SBA has another program that I haven't looked into much, but it includes, well, it's a normal SBA disaster relief program, and it includes, I think, a $10,000 grant at the time you make your application, whether or not it's approved. Mm-hmm. And so once you submit that, there should be some cash coming your way. You can do both, and you can roll that one, which has a higher interest rate, into the PPP program later under certain conditions. I mean, let me put a disclaimer in here. I'm not a banker, so you need to talk to your banker.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, those are some
but
great...
That's the generality of that. Now you come to the next point, mm-hmm. and this one doesn't keep your employees on the books right now, but it helps your company survive and it helps your employees survive. And that is for any employees that you can't make work in that other program, mm-hmm. You should talk with them about going on, if you can't otherwise keep it together, talk about them going on unemployment temporarily. And there have been changes made to the unemployment program that help them keep body and soul together during that period. And that is that the federal stimulus program includes an extra $600 that's going on top of the normal unemployment benefit for people who are laid off because of the virus pandemic. And so you add whatever amount of that money anyone has access to on top of the normal unemployment, they could be probably capturing close to, if not all, of their normal salary for that period, mm-hmm. While you're basically protecting the viability of your business for staff that you want to keep alive and well to come back to you as soon as you can reopen. So right. It's not a first priority option. The best one is the PPP, and I'll go into why that's the best one in a moment. Mm-hmm. But if you can't get that, well, talk with your staff and work out solutions that can help everybody get through it together one way or another. Mm-hmm. Okay. The other thing you can potentially do is that some banks, if you're borrowing money from banks, are letting people have some time to slide on their payments, some extended payment terms. So there are obviously, some things that you may be able to do with your banking relationship to give you some temporary relief. The bottom line here is, how do we get the business and its employees through this crisis to the point where things can start up again? And these are not all of the potential ways to do it, but certainly these are things that may help. And that's really the bottom line for a lot of companies who are fearful and struggling and trying to figure out how to proceed. Don't give up hope, explore your options, and come up with a plan. Bring your employees into the conversation and find ways together to get through this and join back together when you can reopen your facility. Now, let's move to the next portion of the strategy, which is that some stores that have been closed or basically shut down because of emergency orders in certain states have actually applied to their state for an exemption on the basis that they're an essential business. Mm-hmm. And for all the reasons that we started out with, the mental sanity, the physical wellness, and
Right.
dealing with the issues of people, learning how to deal with advances in cooking at home, which many people don't do anymore, sprouting and baking and taking care of kids and helping with their homeschooling and dealing with elderly people and anxiety and depression, and then the positive sides of their practices. I can't think of a more essential business other than possibly food, maybe medicine. Okay, so
Exactly.
I think we're right up there, and if they can get reopened, that obviously has to be done in a way that protects the health and safety of your employees and your customers, and put in physical distancing and the masks and the disinfection protocols, all those things to make people feel safe and comfortable and be safe and comfortable coming to and working in that environment. Mm-hmm. But then we come to the visionary side of things, okay? Mm-hmm. And that is that if you can't reopen your physical location or get enough traffic in there to keep it afloat, and you've worked on whatever the former strategies were that we talked about, you now have an opportunity to really use your visionary powers and rethink your business a little bit and come up with new strategies to do what it is you set up the business to do, which is to bring information and community to people who are seeking to grow in certain ways, or who are seeking solutions to problems. Okay, well, physical books have done that, and they're an important part of that, and people coming to your facility for programs, for readings, for yoga lessons, for whatever it might be, for author presentations, has been an important part of building community and creating an opportunity for people to hear about, learn about new things, and to explore those things, and to take material home with them and do it at home. Well, you didn't start your business for the most part because you wanted to become a millionaire by becoming a bookseller. I mean, that's not a career choice for people who want to be millionaires nowadays.
Right.
I mean, we do it because we're committed to the vision.
Right.
So, for the last few years, booksellers have been wringing their hands about, oh my God, Amazon, and what are we going to do? And a lot of them have gone into a state of depression before the virus pandemic hit. And I suggest that this is an opportunity for us to now re-envision how we accomplish the mission. And maybe in the absence of a physical location, we need to start using virtual tools when they work, such as we're doing here.
Yeah.
But re-envisioning how we do some of that and build and create and support our customers and our community through a whole raft of virtual tools. We can do readings, we can do yoga lessons, we can do author presentations virtually nowadays. And I say, there are also publishers saying, well, what do? I don't have bookstores here to get the message out. Well, you can do collaboration between a publisher and a bookseller and create an author presentation that the various booksellers put up on their virtual platforms, and basically have the publishers work with the booksellers all across the country through these virtual presentations. You can do reading circles. You can do all kinds of, group get-togethers and explorations of concepts. There are people out there doing programs in the Course in Miracles right now, or some other program, and they'll get together, and even if they do it virtually, and they're all hooked together on the platform, and they read a certain passage from the book together that they're preparing for, and then they discuss with each other, and it gives people that feeling and sense of community that they crave, that they can't get from Amazon. I mean, the reason that independent small booksellers around the country exist and continue to exist in the time of Amazon is because Amazon is cold and distant and mechanical and roboticized, and people crave real human interaction and real experience and real opportunity to share their ideas, their ideals, their emotions, their feelings, their opportunities, and explore their issues with real people, and not just with some cold robotic site that puts recommendations up based on some kind of algorithm.
Right.
We can re-envision what it is we do and how it is we do it, and perhaps find new ways to both get the monetary income that you would get from your readings or your programs, as well as create and maintain and hold together your client base and your community. Provide, in some cases, some free services that are available to you that go up on your platform as ongoing opportunities for people to engage. And engage in questions and answers, engage in one-on-one sessions with people where possible and necessary. There's a lot of things that can be done, and particularly if you get your PPP loan and your overhead is basically mostly covered and your employees are covered, you can retask them towards building out this platform and beginning to communicate with your customers. Hopefully you've kept a good mailing list and an email list, and you're able to reach out to people and let them know you're here and that you're here for them and that you've got programs going on, and they don't need to feel isolated at home, but they can feel the community presence and the caring presence of what it is your bookstore represents.
Right. No, I completely agree. I mean, this is a time where you have to think creatively, you have to pivot. You mentioned some of the different strategies that shops and others engaged in the industry can turn to, and this is a time to allocate those time resources in different ways. And I think you had a great point there about the mission. I think if you really root yourself in why you got into this in the first place, what is that mission, and really think about that in a creative way, then you'll come up with a variety of different ways that you can approach the market. And you're right, in your community, it is about building community. That's how these shops and bookstores have stayed open for so long, is because that sense of community. There's nowhere else that someone can get the exact same experience. You're right, you can't get it from Amazon, you can't get it from that cold robotic kind of interaction. You get it from the community. And if stores can find a way to engage with the community in a different way during this time, that's, I think, a great strategy to make it through this period, for sure.
And I would add one thing, and that is that many bookstore owners who are of my generation, basically at or beyond retirement age, but doing it because they love it and they want to stay in it. Many of them aren't as tech savvy as the younger generation, and they're thinking, well, how do I go about re-envisioning that? Right. And there are resources out there, maybe in their employee base, that they have underestimated as to how good they are. I mean, I've got a 7-year-old grandson who is a whiz on computers, and he's doing YouTube videos on movies that he watches and his commentary on them. I mean, we shouldn't underestimate the people working in our company just because they're working as a stock clerk or a bookkeeper or something. They may have capacities in this area that can be redirected during this time towards creating platforms that the stores can utilize. I'd like to mention a couple other things that I didn't mention earlier in the survival mode, okay? One of them is that the American Booksellers Association, for those who are members of the ABA, has a program called Save the Indie Bookstore, and they're raising money and giving out grants. And they've raised probably about $750,000 so far. And they just got a matching $100,000 grant program, or matching $100,000 donation program for the next 100,000 that comes in. Mm-hmm. So I suspect they're going to have $1 million that they can give out in grants to ABA indie bookstore members. So if you're an indie bookstore and you're seeking some assistance, this is separate from the government stimulus. This is the American Booksellers Association. And the other one that I'm aware of that's doing something similar is called the BINC Foundation, BINC Foundation, .org. And this is something that Cover has actually put forward in one of their memos or newsletters.
We have,
I know that they've got a link somewhere that most of you probably seen or received, but it can't hurt to go out to these two places and see how they may be able to help and what suggestions they have. I mean, at this point in time, we all need to be creative and supportive and find ways to get through this.
Exactly. So you mentioned, we talked a little bit about other service strategies. What do you think some of the best service strategies are a shop that can turn to, you know, off the top of your head, like different kinds of services that would help them to get their creative juices flowing about how they can approach their community?
Well, sure. Well, let's say this. A lot of bookstores do not necessarily just rely on selling books to meet their overhead. Some of them do card reading, some of them do psychic reading, some of them do various counseling sessions, some of them run classes of various sorts. Whatever you're doing in person right now, other than maybe a hands-on therapy, like if you're doing cranial sacral therapy or chiropractic on the side, whatever, oh, okay, you can't do that in a screen, but you could certainly hold a reading with someone one-on-one in a chat session. You could certainly set up study circles, and you can actually expand your offerings. And this is a program that New Leaf developed a few years ago, but I don't think a lot of stores are aware of it. And that is called consumer direct fulfillment that we do in the store's name. So you could have access to our entire 35,000 item catalog. And for instance, you say, well, let's do a study circle on the Course in Miracles, but my store is closed and I've got 20 people ready to sign up, but they don't all have the book. Well, okay, your store is closed, but New Leaf is actually still operational. If you're set up as a CDF client over there, they would, you'd be able to place the orders, have it drop ship directly to your 20 customers. You'd get billed for it and pay for it. They would pay you. And you'd now have your study circle set up with the course materials that you've designed the course around. And that's just one example, whether it's that or it's some specific meditation tools or a particular book that you want to recommend to people in a program that you're doing, or an author event that you're hosting, like we talked about, and you want to have that author's books available. Well, you could make a list of those books available, have people order them through you, you drop ship them through CDF, and New Leaf would send them directly to the stores on your behalf. That's one survival strategy that you know, I don't know that people are as aware of as they should be.
Right.
And I'm not the person who knows how that all gets set up. You know, I'm sort of 7,000 miles distant from them.
Right, right. But it's good. It sounds like a really good program.
I'm in Hawaii and they're in Atlanta, but if they write an email to S. Harrison at newleafdist.com, she would fill them in on it.
Okay. All right.
So hopefully that's another resource that they can use.
Definitely, yeah. And coming from our perspective too, you mentioned too how you know, publishers, you know, I director of Red Feather Mind Body Spirit. We have to work with bookstores and the Mind Body Spirit stores in a different way to help them to engage with their community, reaching out to our artists and authors and so forth, so they can engage with the shops directly and so forth. So it's really a matter of, and the thing about this period right now is that, once these strategies are fleshed out and utilized, it's when things do normalize, it'll be a whole other suite of services that
Exactly.
can be offered on top of the existing services already. So it's a time of pivoting, but also it's a time of expansion too, of opportunities in one respect there too. So when things do come back to normalize, just imagine the suite then of services and options that these businesses will have. So
well, and that's really true. And I'd like to add another thing, and that's that we frequently get sort of insulated in our own business.
Mhm.
And during this time, it may be an opportunity for us to do some outreach. I mean, we all shop in various grocery stores, okay?
Mhm.
And some of those grocery stores do things like they have a magazine rack where people can take a free magazine, or they have a bulletin board,
Mhm.
or if it's a health food store and they're aligned with your mission in general,
Mhm.
they may agree to, pass out information or post information about programs you're running online. It's a great opportunity to do some community outreach with places that are open, where everybody is congregating at some point, and
Exactly.
expand your customer base. We have our Evolve magazine at New Leaf, and give it away free to the stores. Well, you put your stamp or your card on it and find a magazine rack in a health food store or a place where they're willing to give it away, and people are suddenly reading new material and articles of interest and about books and authors they may not know about, and it's got your name and address on it. And if you've done it right, you've given them your online access and your whatever portal it is you've set up, and they can join your community even though everything is locked down.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. So again, just a way of thinking in different ways about who is open, how can we connect. It's really important information to have. So, what role do you think that the mind body spirit industry will play when things do normalize? When things get back to normal. What role will those engaged in the marketplace play when things get back to the way they were?
Well,
They ever do?
I'm sort of skeptical about the term normal.
You guys want to put normal in air quotes? Yeah.
Okay, and the reason I'm skeptical about that is that normal for us in this world has become living as if there are 3 or 4 planet Earths and there's only one. Normal is so insane that I don't think that any of us would want to go back to the pre-pandemic normal.
Mm-hmm.
We have a new paradigm come out
Mm-hmm.
in the future that will become what I call the new normal.
New normal.
Live more in tune and in harmony with nature and with the capacity of the planet and with a compassionate view for our fellow human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happens that the body, mind, spirit booksellers and industry represent the information and the approach that is going to be needed if we're going to survive as a species through what's currently called the 6th mass extinction event on the planet. We are destroying so many species so quickly that the people who study geological time are calling this the 6th mass extinction.
Wow.
The last one, I think, was when the dinosaurs and all those other beings got blown away by the asteroid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is human caused. And the idea of, recycling, the idea of clean energy, the idea of living more lightly on the planet, following our spiritual path, relating to human beings. This is what we're all about. And this is what the planet is craving. And if anything, this epidemic is underlining that for everybody. We're seeing places that had smog so thick you couldn't breathe. Suddenly you can see the mountains 30 or 50 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
are noticing that. They're saying, wow, I can breathe and I can see mountains that I haven't seen in my lifetime.
Right.
And I think that we as body, mind, spirit visionaries need to be in the forefront of helping to redefine and define what new normal should be after this is over. If we go back to our plastic, acquisitive, raw capitalistic methodologies, anyone does whatever they want without worrying about consequences, and a few people sit on top of the mountain and kick everybody else in the teeth to keep them off that pile of gold, we're going to all die. I mean, the pandemic is nothing to what's coming if we can't change that paradigm somehow.
Right. Yeah.
We need to be redefining it, and we are at the perfect place to do that. And it's something we can be meditating on during our time of sort of meditation here.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You make an amazing point there that, we're kind of standing in the breach there between, the old normal and hopefully the new normal. And I think that, I know that we are engaged in this industry. We're already there, right? We're already ready for the new normal. So we can help others maybe to come along to that and make the entire world better through this issue.
And with goodwill and compassionate understanding that they're going through a lot of adjustments and re-education about all the things they thought were important before that are maybe not so important after undergoing a couple of months of lockdown and realizing the pain and the tragedy and the isolation and the emptiness that people are feeling that never felt this before because they were so busy running the rat race. And now they're suddenly saying, well, there's got to be more to life. And we're there to say, you're welcome. We've already been going through this for a number of years. And that's why we're here as a resource. We're not here to teach you. We're here to join with you on a path of discovery together. And we understand that pain and that isolation and that anxiety you're feeling. And here are some tools that may be of use for you to think about and explore.
Wonderful. All right. Well, Santosh, thank you so much for telling us all these strategies and the inspiration you've provided. And thank you. I apologize for all the technical issues we had earlier. We'll try and get any comments. Maybe we'll figure out a way maybe to get comments in there somehow. But this was a really, enlightening exchange here, and thank you for the time. So we will be having a formal launch of the entire Visionary Learning Academy certification program later this year. That's going to feature courses which pertain to relevant information for those engaged in the Mind, Body, Spirit marketplace. And we'll be providing other special events throughout the coming months. Thank you all for watching this now. Sorry you weren't able to tune in, but watching. And thank you for the opportunity to serve you. And thank you, Santosh, for all of your insights there.
Well, thank you. And I want to say, if you find that a lot of questions arose that couldn't get answered, and schedule a follow-up sort of Q&A session, I'm certainly receptive to that.
Wonderful. Okay. I might take you up on that then.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you so much for
have a good
for the whole
evening.
thing.
All right. You take care
Thank
now.
you. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.